Hello, I'm Frost and welcome to my beginner guides for Dual Universe. In this episode we are going to be upgrading our speeder. Welcome back. So why are we upgrading our speeder? Well, we have three reasons. The first reason is it's going to give us a chance to take a look at all the various elements that make up the speeder, and we'll be able to see what purpose they serve. Secondly, we're going to add some extra small containers to it, so that way it's going to help give us a little bit more space when we're mining. And then finally, we're going to turn it from a hovercraft into a flying construct, so you can actually get nice and high off the ground and fly around either Sanctuary or Alioth. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get out of my seat here, and as you can see right now I've got the standard speeder right in front of us. Now there's two different kinds, but essentially they have the same components in them. So what makes up the speeder? Well, first of all we have the dynamic core, which is this cube right here. Now the dynamic core is used for all flying constructs, whether it's a hovercraft, a flyer or a spaceship. Then we have the seat, which is the control module. Then behind it we have a fuel tank, which is the blue thing just right there. Then we need some thrusters, which are these guys here. So we've got one here at the back and the second one on this side, and we actually have a thruster on the front. Now the thruster on the front is only really necessary on a hovercraft if you want to be able to reverse. Otherwise you normally don't bother with that. Then we have the adjusters. Now the adjusters are what you would normally call reaction control thrusters. So they help actually maneuver the ship in various directions. So obviously you have some facing the sides, you have some facing up, some down, which gives you all your various movements. Then we have our air brakes. Now the air brakes are here on the front. They're these flat panels right here. In fact, let me just grab hold of this and lift it up. There we go. That will do just fine. There we go. So you can see there's some on the bottom here. There's one there. There's one on this side. And then there's some more on the sides here, as you can see. Then finally, right underneath, let me lift it up a little bit more, we actually have the hovercraft engine, which allows it to hover off the ground, which is right there underneath. So those are, finally got the stabilizer, which is that big thing on the back there. And what the stabilizer does is actually stop you from drifting too much when you're turning. Now, because this is actually an airfoil, it reacts to the speed at which you're traveling through the air, and will therefore, the faster you go, the better it is at stopping you from drifting when you're turning. And those are all the elements that you need for a hover. Now what we're going to do is we're actually going to change this and add all the other various modules that you see here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to strip off all the bottom here, just so that I can then fit underneath 3 hover engines. So let me just grab this here now, and we're going to grab this one, and I'm just going to lift it up. There we go. And you can see essentially that I've added more hover engines onto the bottom. Now the reason for doing that is obviously we've got the 2 containers that we're going to need to add. So actually, rather than stripping all this off, I think you can see exactly what I've done. So I've removed all the bottom layer there, all of the voxels that are around the edge. And then on the back here, you can see I've just extended the voxels out so that I could fit the 2 hover engines on the bottom. So once that's done, let me just bring this back down again. There we go, put it back down. Once that was done, then the other thing that I would have done, I'll just stop that for a sec and go back to this one, is I then on the back, I just literally removed all of the extra voxels that were here. So all of this stuff here. So let me just go into build mode. So I just went into 2 and then just removed all the various voxels that were unnecessary behind the seat, like that. There we go. So they're all gone. And then I used my number 1 tool to remove the stabilizer. And then once again, I just removed all of these blocks like so that I get a nice flat surface. I also remove the adjuster that's right there. So if I actually go up a little bit now, you see that I end up with 2 nice flat surfaces, which then allows me to then pop on the 2 containers. So I'm going to show you the elements that I used for this mod. So if I go into my inventory, So I've got some voxels. It can be anything you want. It doesn't matter whether it's carbon fiber, whether it's concrete or plastic or wood. They actually all weigh the same at the moment, which is about 27 kilos per cubic meter. The only two things that weigh more are steel and marble. Do not build it with marble, it is way, way heavier. Steel is normally used if you're actually going to be involved in PPP. If you're just flying around on Alioth or Sanctuary, then just use, like I said, any of the items I just mentioned. They all weigh the same, it's all absolutely fine. Then there's the two hover engines that I mentioned and the two extra small containers. And then what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using small adjusters rather than the extra small adjusters. We then got ourselves 4 more engines. We've got 2 small wings, 2 extra small ailerons, and 3 stabilizers. I got 4 here, but we only actually need 3 because I actually just removed one off of here, so it's just been added into my inventory. So you actually need to get 3 stabilizers. Now all of this isn't going to cost you very much. These are all pretty cheap. So then on this side, what you're going to do is you're going to remove also the adjusters that are here. So let me just go into build again. There we go. And we're going to remove these adjusters, these extra small adjusters right there. So there's 4 on the front, 2 up, 2 down. You can leave these ones here. These are actually adjusters. They don't look like it, but they are. They're actually just embedded into the voxels. You can see in the ship here, I've actually taken them off and replaced them. And you can see they're just sitting flush there. And then on the back, as I said, so I've removed the top one already. And then if we just lift the ship up again, you will see that on the bottom, we have 2 more to remove. There's one there. Nope. It's running away. There we go. There's one right there, and there's one there. Okay, and then also I will remove the ECU as we're going to need to move it. One of the things I should mention as well, very quickly, the ECU basically takes over your ship if, for example, you get disconnected and will land it for you. One of the things, though, is that when you actually drop the blueprint and it creates the ship for you, as you can see, it's not actually armed. You have to press the F and get a glowing green light on it. If you do not have a glowing green light on it, it will not work. So something to be aware of there. Also, the other thing, if you disassemble your speeder completely and try and recreate it with the blueprint, you'll have to buy a new one of these ECUs. You cannot reuse it on the blueprint that's given to you in the tutorial. Right, so we're pretty much finished with this one, so we're going to go over to this side and I'm going to show you the changes that I made. So you can see now that I have a small adjuster on the top, so let me lift it up again. So I've got a small adjuster on the top, and just do that again. There we go. And then I've added a small one on the bottom there at the front, and at the back you can see there's one at the bottom there, and then that was where the ECU was. If I bring this back down, you can see there's one at the top, and then I just made a space there at the back for the ECU. Sliding all over the place with my ship. And then as you can see, I just put the ECU on the back. So let me put my lights on. I just added some extra voxels in there just to give it a flat surface for the 2. Then the engines were literally just tagged onto the end. So there was room for them, so I just popped them on the end there. And then finally, I had some spare extra small adjusters that I removed from the front, and I popped them on the end of these wings. So what we're going to do now is we're going to talk about the actual wings themselves. So there's 3 different types of airfoils. You've got the wings, which are right here in front of us. You have the ailerons, and then you have the stabilizers. Now each one fulfills a different purpose. The stabilizers, when they're in a vertical position like this, as I mentioned with the hovercraft, they stop you from drifting. When you actually put them horizontal, they actually provide lift. And then if you have them at a 45-degree angle like this, they do half and half. Then your ailerons and wings essentially provide exactly the same function, but they have different stall angles. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into constructs, and I'm just going to show you very quickly. So I'm going to bring up a wing, and we're going to just do wing small. There we go. I'm going to do inspect item. Just pop that over there. We're going to grab the aileron, and the aileron, there we go, and aileron small, and do inspect item on that as well. Pop that there for now. And then we're going to grab our stabilizer, and we'll go stabilizer small, and inspect item. There we go. Right, so we're going to put our aileron right here. So there we go. Wing on the left, aileron in the middle, and then stabilizer. Because what we want to do is we want to look at these figures that are right here. So I just need, there we go. Okay, so first of all, the wing gives you 250,000 newtons of lift for the small wing. The aileron gives you 400,000, so it actually gives you much more lift than the wing. But it has a stall angle of 30 degrees, which means if you fly your ship at a higher angle than 30 degrees, then the ailerons will not work. They will not provide you any lift. The stabilizers have a high stall angle, so they go right up to 70 degrees. So the stabilizers work best when you bring really, really sharp angles of descent and ascent. And then your ailerons provide the most lift, but at a shallow angle. And then your wings are kind of your intermediaries with a stall angle of 55 degrees. So when we actually come onto spaceships, which is in a couple of episodes, you will see that the angle at which you leave the atmosphere is always below 30 degrees, so that you're getting lift from your ailerons, your wings, and your stabilizers. Everything is lifting you up. So that's the main difference between the two. So really you just want a balance of all of the above. The last thing to mention as well is that the stabilizers have also the most drag. So the more stabilizers you have, the more engines you're going to need to offset that drag. And then basically where I've placed them is you have to give room behind the ailerons and behind the wings. So in fact, if I go into build mode now, and if we pick this wing up, there we go, we're going to pick the wing up, and then we're going to pop it back down again, and then just pop that into quick access, there we go. And you can see that at the moment I need to spin that round, and then it's telling me that I can't actually fit it there, but it fits here. And you can see the arrows and the circle are showing me where I need space in order to fit the wing. Right, so the wing has been fitted back on there, so that's all good. Now, what I want to show you is something called the build helper. So let me bring this out. The build helper is going to come in very, very useful for you, because what it will do is it will show you if you're missing any items, and also will help with the placement of your adjusters. So the build helper you can see is on the screen at the top there. So if we hit the tab key, we can then access the build helper. So you have your construct information, which tells you your basic information like mass, the amount of honeycomb you're using, and what elements are fitted on your ship. The ones that are most useful are your atmospheric flight engineer, which we'll just pull over here for a sec, and the other one is your axis rotation. Now, as you can see, this ship has insufficient low altitude lift and forward thrust to be able to go into space, so it's purely an atmosphere ship. And when we come onto the spaceship, you'll see that's a very different setup. If we go to axis rotations, you can see if I bring down torque, you can now see the amount of power that's being put on to each side. Now, the reason why this comes in useful is if I go come out of tab again, you can see I've kept these on screen. And what we're going to do is we're going to go and grab one of these extra small adjusters. There we go. Pop it on. And what you're going to see is as I move it around, you can see that it's changing the figures in the axis rotation. Now, be aware that there is a bug. If you see at the moment, you're right. Obviously, because I'm adding it to the left, it's going to increase the yaw to the right, but it's showing us 724 kilonewtons. I don't think that's at all right. I think that's 724 newtons, but somehow the actual K's got in there. But the most important thing to see with this is you can see from your placements that right now it's 724. If I move it up, it's 893, right up to 907 if I have it on the front here. If I put it on the side, it's 928, so once again that's really good. But if I move it further back down the ship, then it loses its ability, the amount of newtons that it can apply. So what this shows is that you really want all your adjusters to be at the extremities of your ship, and one of the reasons why they were put on the ends of these ailerons. So that's something to be aware of. Then the other thing you can look at, if I go back into my tab again, is you could see your low altitude lift is just your hover engines. But your high altitude lift, you can see now your airfoils, how many G's that you're actually producing. So once again, you can move your airfoils around, see how it works, add more, take off some, and balance it out to try and get the most lift that you can. So that's where the helper comes in really, really useful. Obviously, it can show you things like your fuel manager, and you've then got basically a full list of all the elements that are on your ship. So there you go. So that's the builder. So something to be aware of. Also, it will tell you, for example, if I go now and I remove some of these adjusters. There's one on the end here. Let's remove that one. There we go. And I can come around to the back quickly and we'll remove that one in the corner there. If I can get to it without lifting the ship. There we go. Yeah. Okay, so now if I go into my helper, yeah, no. I was expecting it to give me a warning. Maybe I need to come back out and then go back into build again. But normally it will tell you if you're actually missing certain items. It's not doing it for me at the moment. I don't know why, but it should do. And normally it's basically, you'll see up the top on the build helper there that it would actually be orange on the axis rotation icon to tell you they're actually missing some adjusters. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop these back on quickly, and then we're just going to do one last thing, and then basically the ship will be ready to go. Now the other thing to be aware of is that the ship doesn't need any different fuel because you're working atmosphere. Everything is exactly the same. Now, what you need to do is once you've done all of these changes, you actually need to instruct your hovercraft seat to no longer behave like a hovercraft. So if you actually right click on it, you can run default Autoconfigure. So here, basically you can reconfigure your emergency control unit, which if you still got it on this, you will need to do that to make sure the ECU understands what is actually on the ship. So normally, if it's a hovercraft, it is a ground construct, but now we're going to change it to a flying construct. And it's going to erase anything you've done already, but you're unlikely to have done some custom coding on this at this stage. So you're okay, so you just say yes. The last thing to show you as well is that one of the things you should be aware of is that sometimes when you're in build mode, your engines may flash yellow. And the reason why is that it sometimes doesn't always link them into the fuel tank. So if I press the 6 key, you can actually see your links. Now these links here, you can see that yellow one at the front there, is linking the atmospheric fuel tank to the atmospheric engine at the front. And then these ones are probably actually hidden away behind the voxels. But you can see that they're all green at the moment. But if they're flashing yellow, then what you need to do is you need to click on the engine and then drag the line over. As you see, as it's going red, that means it's already connected. But if it wasn't, then you would then be able to connect that. So I think that pretty much covers everything there. So what we're going to then do is we're just going to take this for a spin. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump in. And the thing you're going to realize is, actually there's one more thing that I didn't cover, and that is your atmospheric brakes. So as I mentioned earlier, that you don't actually need an engine on the front. The reason why is you don't need an engine is because you have these brakes which are right here. Now these atmospheric brakes, you hold down the control key as it says to be able to use them. They can actually be in any position. They don't have to be facing forwards, left or right. They just need space around them. So I could literally grab these and stick them on the top. I could put them on the side here and they would work. I can also say the more brakes, the better. They come in very, very handy, especially if you want to stop very, very quickly. Right, so now that we're in the ship, what you will see is that when you were using the hovercraft, your W key and your A key, there we go, it took a while to take off. Right, so your W key and your A key, let me just use to move you forwards. Now they actually work as your pitch. So your R key and your T key, and you can do Control H and these will come up. You can now see that you raise your speed and lower your speed with R and T. So you now pitch up and then hit your R key. You can see there you go, there my engine's thrusting in. I just caught the rail on the back there and we are off. And now you actually have a flying unit. So you can go pretty high with this. Just make sure you don't run out of fuel. Make sure you always carry some fuel with you. Always carry some scraps with you as well, just in case you crash. But you can see that it's all working quite nicely. I can do rolls, and it's all behaving extremely well. So these small adjusters are 4 times more effective than the extra smalls. So that's something to bear in mind. That's why I generally prefer to use the small adjusters. You need less of them. You only need to put them in a specific place, like extreme front, extreme back, and then you get extremely good movement on your ship. So I think that pretty much covers everything. I hope you found that useful. One last thing I will mention actually is if you hit the insert key, that will give you a third-person view, and you can see your ship flying through the air gracefully there. And then finally, if you press the X key, you can see your trajectory mode, which is your instant velocity. You can see your thrust and where your thrust is taking place and in which direction. So you can see the thrust from the lift from the airfoils there being indicated as well. And then we have our long-range trajectory. So that's if I cut my engines now, then I would basically plonk right in the water. Right, so that pretty much wraps it up. I hope you found that useful. If you did, please give me a like. You can dislike too, that's fine. In the next episode, we're going to be doing crafting and industry. So I'm going to show you how to set up a factory and kind of make it self-sustaining. And then the episodes after that, we will be looking at building a hover hauler so that you can mine lots more. And then after that, the next episode, we will be doing a space-capable ship and getting you up into space and off either Sanctuary or Alioth. Right, so please hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon for notifications, check my Discord. I stream regularly. All the details are on the Discord and in the description below. Thank you for watching. Until the next one. Bye.